This Headless Professor video is about how to write a Canvas discussion forum post that has focus. Many of your topical threads will ask a question, why does something happen? Can you give one reason? How would you solve this problem? What is something that could be done? What I want you to do on such topics is strive for depth. A big problem is if you are too broad. Don't cover a long list of possible answers. A list is not analysis. If you find yourself making a list instead of going right into a specific case, you are probably still on too broad of a level. Don't start off your post with something like, in my opinion, or I feel that, or this is a very serious and complicated problem. This could be viewed from the perspective of Freud, Skinner, Maslow, etc., etc. If you find yourself making a list instead of going into a specific case, you are probably still on too broad of a level. In other words, your very first sentence, get to your point and stay on that point, illustrating it with a case study. And if you have a concluding sentence, tie it back to the topic and don't run off in some other new direction in that last sentence. Let's take an example of a discussion board topic. Give one reason why U.S. obesity rates have increased in the past 2 decades. Illustrate with a case study. Now, here's an example of a bad post. It's very unfocused. In my opinion, this is a very complicated question that could be addressed from a Freudian behavioral or humanistic point of view. I feel that this is so complicated that only a comprehensive, holistic, dynamic, interactive approach could begin to examine all the numerous pertinent data. So we could mention genetics, habits, and celebrities. In the words of Abraham Lincoln, you are what you eat. And in conclusion, it may just be a conspiracy to re-elect Trump. Well, nothing here had much of anything to add to the conversation. Just a bunch of loose ideas not really tied together. Now, this is what many students would start with. They'd come up with a sentence like, well, it's about American lifestyle. Well, that's too broad. What do you mean by lifestyle? Sexual orientation, residence, entertainment? Ooh, that's a list. And if you find yourself making a list instead of going into a specific case, you're probably still on too broad of a level. So let's narrow it down. It's all about the American diet. Well, what do you mean, the American diet? Well, that's maybe too many calories, too much fat, too many carbs, too many meals per day, too large of portions at the meals, fast food options. Oh, that's another list. And if you find yourself making a list, instead of going right into a specific case, you're probably still on too broad of a level. So let's just take one of these points on the list and give it some depth with a case study. The rising popularity of fast food restaurants can account for some of the increase in obesity. Case study. My brother-in-law, Cornelio, came to work in the U.S. for a 2-year period. He was my height, 5'10", and skinny, 130 pounds, when he arrived. He spent the first year working on a ranch and continued to eat his regular Mexican diet and did not gain weight. He then got a job at a warehouse in San Jose and discovered McDonald's cheeseburgers. Within a year, he put on 45 pounds. I saw him again in rural Mexico 2 years later, and he was back down to 130 pounds. Although such case studies are not adequate to confirm cause and effect relations, they illustrate how things occur, providing depth that a list does not.